You're listening to the Aesthetically Speaking podcast, presented by Nextech.
You're listening to the Aesthetically Speaking podcast presented by Nextech. I'm Robin and Toe, and we are coming to you live from the Med Spa show here in Las Vegas. So excited to be here, and it's at the beautiful Wynn Hotel. And today I have Jessica Nunn with me here today from Maven Financial.
Yeah.
So excited you're here
Good
today,
morning.
Jessica. I know. Good morning. And we're here early, too.
Yes, we did it.
I know. 10 a.m. We had that great party last night.
Yep, and we are still here.
And we are here.
With the stamps as proof.
Exactly. And what a party. I did that last year, and I had forgotten the vibe and the energy and the colorfulness of it.
Yes.
But it was good. It was really great. It was fun to see everybody. You know, I have had the opportunity to spend some time with you at other meetings, some of your associates, people that work with your business. And I've always admired the way that you have inserted yourself into this industry. It's fascinating. And who would have thought that the need was so relevant? The thing that we've learned and that we've seen over the years is financially, people just don't really understand, let alone how to financially manage your business, let alone the business side of it.
Yeah.
And so you bring this great level of expertise, a fractional CFO.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that they would need a CFO, especially when they're a small business? But the concept of fractional CFO is fascinating. Let's talk about first, what is a fractional CFO? And then let's talk about how you actually had this vision to open this business.
Yeah. So it's so funny. I tell people a lot that I actually never had a vision to open a business. Friends would always tell me, you should start your own business. And I was like, ew, it sounds like a lot of work. I'm not going to do that. But eventually it came to be. And, I was a CPA by trade. So I prepared tax returns, worked with clients, helped them understand their business. And that's what I really loved about that position was like talking with the business owners, like giving them relief whenever I explained something that they had never understood before. That is so rewarding. And, people's businesses is like their baby, right? And they put so much energy, so much love into it. And I can imagine the frustration to not really have a grasp of what's going on financially. So I realized that was actually like truly my passion. I mean, people are really lucky when they have a job that they love so much. And we all just love this so much. It is the most fun helping these business owners really get clear about where they're headed, where they're going, what they need to do to be more profitable. Most importantly, to like teach them business.
Yeah.
They'll say, I've learned so much about business from you and you've changed my life. And I wish I would have found you so long ago. So that's kind of the why and our passion around it. But what we actually do, the easiest way to say it is, business owners will usually have some accountant of some sort, right? So they'll have somebody that is preparing their QuickBooks, somebody that's doing their taxes. And what happens is business owners want to talk to somebody, right? Either they're struggling or they're doing well, or they have an opportunity to do something different, or they're not sure what they should do next, right? And it's kind of lonely running a business by yourself. If you don't have a partner, you can't go run out and ask your team, hey guys, cash flow is really tight. I hope we can make payroll. Like that's not really the best, right?
No.
So, oftentimes they'll call their CPA and they'll say, hey, I have a question about, how should I pay this provider? Or is it time for me to bring on another provider? Or, hey, should I invest in this device? What have you heard about it? Am I going to get an ROI? Or, hey, what do you think about my marketing spend? Is it about what others are spending? Or are my consumables too high? How are my prices? And the CPA is like, well, I don't know. That's not really my expertise. I can talk to you about, how much you're spending on these things, but they don't really necessarily know if it's the right direction or the right strategy for you. This is what we do. We help people make strategic financial decisions based, of course, on their financials, on their KPIs. That's where, our relationship with Nextech is so good because our team is like lives in Nextech, pulling out all the data, pulling the KPIs, helping the clients see, exactly what their provider performance is, exactly what their practice is doing, in terms of performance and patient visits and, all the things that make revenue tick.
It's fascinating. So you've seen a lot in this world, I'm sure. In the few years that you guys have really grasped this industry and just really gotten a hold of it and the findings and things that you've seen, I mean, I'll go back and say some people may not even have a CPA.
Oh, it's true. It's true. Especially on the bookkeeping side. And that was, we were talking about the best things that a med spa could be doing right now, the top 5 best things and one of the worst things. And I was really thinking that the worst thing The two worst things, in our opinion, that a practice can do. Number one, have like somebody in the office manager or a friend or a spouse be the accountant and do the QuickBooks, right? So they'll oftentimes providers and practice owners think that their office manager can do the QuickBooks because they know how to code the transactions. But the reality is then your financial statements are not accurate. So we have that all the time. We start working with a client and they're like, my office manager will send over the financials. And we look and we're like, there's so much wrong here. We had one recently. I was like, hey, these show that your checking account has $189,000 in it. Negative 189. Does that sound right? Does that sound right? I don't think so. Right. So if that's wrong, what else is wrong? Something else is wrong. Right. So that's the number one mistake. You have to have an accountant doing your accounting, period. The second thing is you have to use your EMR correctly. You just have to. Right.
Great call out. You know, I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
You just have to. And why is that? That's because the way that we get information and the way that we understand how successful practices are is by looking at those two things. So of course we care about that stuff, right? I'm sure there's things clinically that are very important. I'm sure there's things with the team that are very important, but we're focusing on the financials. So that's what we care about.
So let's talk a little bit about the data, because this is all hinging on the data, those top two things. Garbage in, garbage out. There's risk associated with that. You let someone do it for months and months, years, and then people wonder why they can't understand their business. They can't understand how they, prepare for the future. Do I want to be bought? Do I want to go into the private equity world? Do I want to add a partner? Do I need to have another location? And if they're living by the seat of their pants and just looking at the day-to-day and not the trends, how do they understand what's coming?
Well, when we ask that, right, we'll say, gosh, your financials, they've just never really been in great shape, right? And you're not even looking at the reports from anything. And they'll say, well, you know what? I look at the checking account, and if it has money, I assume things are okay, right? And that's flying blind. And we always talk about, like, what's the best vacation you ever had? You're going to Italy. You're going to wherever you're going, right? Did you just show up? Or did you research it a bit? Did you think about it? Did you look into, what are the things to do in Italy? What can I do? Let's plan a hotel. Let's book a reservation. Let's book a flight. Let's think about, you need to have enough data so that you can make plans for your business. Otherwise, you're just showing up like, I don't know, what are we going to do? Let's figure it out day to day.
Amazing. Okay, so you've given us two things. What are some of the other things that you must do when you think about those top five?
Okay, so I was thinking of the top 5 must-dos. Number 1, kind of correlated to the don't, right? But you have to have good financials and you have to look at them and they have to be current. So, we offer a complimentary financial assessment for practices, right? So if anyone wants their financials looked at, we're happy to do it for free. And we'll say, hey, send us your financials. Let's take a look together. And they'll say, great, I have them from 2023. Cool. I'll tell you how you did in 2023, right? But we're in 2025. So you really should be looking at the financials from last month, right? We should have all the way up to last month so we can see what happened last month, so we can understand the trends. Again, they need to be prepared by an actual accountant, right? Let's make sure that what we're looking at is correct before we're just guessing.
Right.
So good data. We got to have good data and we need to look at it. So let's figure out a way to make it make sense so that it makes it not frustrating to look at it. Number 2, the second most important thing, a lot of it is non-financial, but what's happening is that we're diagnosing the problems of the practice with the finances, right? And then we're trying to think operationally, what might fix this? What are the best practices and the most profitable practices? What are some of the things that they're doing, right? Like your financials are helping you understand the symptom. Cash flow's light. There's a reason that's a problem. That's a symptom, right? But what's the true reason? Let's get to fix that, right? And so a couple of things that is coming up in all of our meetings right now is number 1, paying providers appropriately, right? So, I remember I was in another live session like this and someone in the audience raised her hand and she was like, so if I have my providers on a 35% of revenue bonus structure, that's a problem because we like provider pay to be maxed at 20%. So she is never going to have her payroll costs in line ever, right? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out right now right? What do I do?
Yeah. Well, how do they undo what they've done?
How do you undo what you've done? How do you undo what you've done? And it's tricky. It is one of the most sensitive things that we do. But you listen, this is a business. You can't continue doing that. She's like, I am now understanding why I am never profitable. I have no money. I'm so stressed all the time. Yep, that was your symptom, right? Your core problem is you have inappropriate payroll structures. So we need to look at it, right? How do we allow your employees to continue to make the money they've made, but just maybe do it differently? Do it differently
Good
while
call
at the
out.
same time growing your practice.
Makes sense. Okay.
So that is the hottest thing right now because employees are hard to find and they want more and more money, right?
Yep.
And we want to take care of them. We want to keep our team and retain. So we really have to get smart about that.
Well, I would also say
Yeah.
compensation is more than just how you pay them. Are you paying them according to the laws within the state that you're in?
For sure.
And that's another thing that I hear a lot of. And people they're not in tune to it. They think that they're so small, they'll never capture the eye of the boards or the state, and those regulations won't pertain to them. And
Right.
It's the whistleblowers.
Yep, exactly right.
It's the upset employees.
Mhm.
They're going to make an impact on your business. So you want to get in line.
Yeah. Well, we see all the time. Like even my daughter, who's 17, went to work at a restaurant, and I was like, "Hey, how come they haven't asked for your social security card? How come they haven't asked for your driver's license?" She's like, "I don't know. I'm 17. Why do I care?" And then 3 weeks later, she got an actual check, just a handwritten check.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, oh, what is happening, right? So we need to pay I see a lot of time on Facebook groups. People are paying their employees on 1099s. That's not allowed.
No.
And we actually have a client that the IRS contacted them, or the state. Somebody contacted them and wanted all the back taxes for that human. That is a lot. So you guys, if you are telling someone where to work, how to work, and providing them their supplies, they are a W-2. They are a W-2. It does not matter
Most
how many
definitely.
hours they work a week. They work one day a week. I don't care. They're a W-2. This is being really scrutinized right now. So
I can imagine. Yeah.
we have to be compliant with payroll, not only in how we're paying them, but you need to be, using a payroll software. There's a lot of things in business and a lot of things with taxes that are scary, but something that will land you in jail is not doing payroll taxes right. You cannot collect payroll taxes from your employee and not send that to the IRS. That's like a jail thing. So you don't do that. So please hire a payroll company, right? Have somebody managing your payroll taxes, sending that in. That is some scary stuff.
I think that just lines up right behind compensation.
Yeah.
You can compensate them, but you better pay the government too.
I think what's crazy to me is people start a business, right? You start a business, you open your med spa, but then you somehow don't believe that you have a business. No, you have an actual business, right? You have employees, you have payroll, you have taxes, you have, sales tax, you have all this stuff that you have to be compliant with. So if you're going to do it, you have to do it.
Do it right.
Yeah.
Totally wholehearted. The data part of this is also intriguing because a lot of times, we'll go back to compensation because it's such a hot topic, as you said. Practices that I've worked with over the years, you'll go in and you'll realize that the way that they're paying their providers, the data that they're using is incorrect.
We see that all the time.
And then this is okay, let's close the door. Let's have this conversation, because the moment that leaks out, then you basically breed so much mistrust within your practice, and your providers then start to question the ethics and everything that you're doing, because it all comes back to compensation.
I know. We see it literally all the time. We try to really make sure we have a handle on the data and make sure that the KPIs are correct before, implementing or changing any compensation plans, but it happens a lot. And that's the thing with employees, right? Is they're always going to be a little distrustful to start. You're going to have to earn that trust.
Yep.
So when you're like, oh, just kidding, we weren't looking at any of the correct data, that is a real problem. So we have to make sure that it's right. Truly.
Most definitely. All right. So got to have an accountant. They got to do their payroll, right? They got to do compensation correct.
In general, yeah.
And, using a payroll company, ideally, that's an important part of this too. I mean, the list keeps going. What are some other things that you can see within this whole spectrum of financials that are frightening?
Again, when we look at practices where they're not as profitable as they should be, and we're just really not sure why, it oftentimes comes down to revenue. So we're really digging into the revenue. It's surprisingly, when people work with us, they're like, oh, I thought when you built my budget, because everyone has a budget, all of our clients have a budget.
Let's add that to the list. That's important.
That's true. When you built my budget, you would be saying, you can't spend this, you can't spend that. It's like a diet. You're not going to let me eat anything. You're not going to let me spend anything. But we actually spend a lot more time looking at revenue than we do the expenses. Because in our mind, if you're maximizing your revenue and you're really, taking every opportunity to generate new revenue in your practice, your expenses become less of a problem. Let's grow our way into profitability, not shrink the expenses and shrink our practice, right?
I've seen your presentations, and one of the things that you call out is that your expenses will increase as your revenue grows, but are you keeping those percentages in line? I think that's a big call out. You don't just look at the numbers. You're really acutely aware of the percentages
Yeah.
of where those fall.
Yeah, and it's percentages of revenue, right? So if your
Yep.
revenue is $1 million, what are your percentages? Now, what would it look like if your revenue were 2 million? Right? And some of your costs don't change. Your rent's the same, right?
Fixed,
Your
yep.
utilities are the same. A lot of the expense, your loan payment's the same, right? So imagine how much more profitability you have when a large percentage of your costs are fixed and don't change. That is why we dig into revenue. So we're really looking at those KPIs and saying, okay, do we have a utilization problem, which means our schedule isn't full enough? Or do we have a revenue per hour problem, which means that our pricing may be too low, or our service mix isn't quite right based on, the costs of the practice. We don't have a good service mix there. Those are two very different problems with very different solutions, right?
Most definitely.
You're not going to see that in the P&L. You have to look at the KPIs and all the other data to get that. So
different than a regular accountant.
So
Going back to the beginning,
right?
You had said your accountants aren't going to help them understand this, especially if they don't understand the industry.
Right.
And that's where this is so critical. And as I'm looking at this floor today, I'm thinking, how many people out there, how many vendors are there that do this?
Oh.
There's not a lot.
That do what we do?
Okay, can I say none?
That's people come in all the time. This just happened yesterday. They're like, who are your competitors? We're like, if you find one, let us know.
It's actually a good problem.
Yeah. And you know what? That's fine. There's a place for everybody. And,
True.
We're not going to come in here and demand everybody work with us, although we believe that they should. But I think that we really take a unique approach because the other thing is, we're normal humans. So we have had so many clients that have come to us and said, my accountant, usually when I talk to them, it's a young woman. She owns a practice. She's new in business. Her accountant's like this 55-year-old man, right? Just like, he makes me cry. I feel like he's talking down to me. I don't know what he's saying, and he makes me cry. That happens all the time.
Wow.
Isn't that the saddest thing?
It's sad.
So sad. And
It should be fun to go to your accountant.
no one ever says that.
Okay, well, I'm going to say it here and now. It should be fun.
It should be fun.
And that's
talking
what Maven
about your
does.
financials.
You
How about
make
that?
it fun, right?
So clients will say, yes, they'll say, for the first time, I understand you guys break it down. You talk like normal humans, and I actually look forward to my meeting with you every month. It's one of my favorite meetings. And who would have thought? Because the first time we really get into the data, it is a whole realm of emotions. We have had clients stressed. We have had clients, they'll say like, this is like getting naked. I'm revealing everything to you about my business. This is the scariest thing I've ever done.
My.
Yes, it's a whole thing. We are therapists too, so don't worry.
Yep.
But
aesthetics in general, right?
Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's really nice to have someone on your team that you can trust. And it's been so great having our clients here at the meeting, and they're like, this is the best thing. I love your team. That is why we do it, right?
Oh,
We
I love your
started
team. You guys are great.
We started this to help people. Truly, that's where we are. Our passion is to help people. And so it's so cool to get the feedback that we are, in fact, helping people.
It's amazing. I love it. What else do you want to share with our listeners today?
I would say it's been a tough time in aesthetics. Back in a couple of years ago, the rising tide was lifting all boats. Everyone was doing really well, we felt. And now we're really seeing what's pulling apart, like the practices that are really intentional about knowing where they're headed, knowing where they are today, and kind of the gaps that they have, and the ones that are just flying by the seat of their pants. So, I would say figure out which camp you're going to be in. And then if you're ready to grow, if you're ready to really become profitable and kind of separate yourself from the rest, you got to take that next step.
You said something interesting. Practices will say, I don't want to grow. Okay, that's great. Nobody says you have to scale up. Nobody says you have to have 5 locations or even 2 locations. You don't have to have another provider. But do you want to be more profitable?
Yeah, that's so true too. And there's a difference between, we kind of say wanting to grow and take over the world. We always start meetings with, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? Where's your long-term goal, 10 years? Are you on a beach, or are you, managing 5 locations? We need to plan in a different way depending on, where you're headed here. And a lot of people really want to maximize what they have, but they really want to enjoy their life while they're doing it too. So they want a really nice work environment where, they really have the opportunity to go in and take care of patients and focus on that. But they're not trying to necessarily take over the world with their business. So we support that too. We really, our practices that we work with aren't big. We have practices that have 2, 3, 4 providers, and that's it. And they don't have a desire to have more than that. And that's great. But what we want to do is make sure you're maximizing that, right? Because it's still a business. It's still a business.
Well, I think people are scared of understanding what the margin means. What does that mean? Is it going to impact what I do and how I actually enjoy my day? But at the end of the day, the freedom it brings.
Well, oftentimes what we're trying to do is have that owner not be the main provider, because it's still a business. So you need to have some time to run the business, right? Even if it's not huge, even if it's small, you need to have at least a half a day a week to focus on, looking at your numbers, running your payroll, spending time with your team, growing your team, doing reviews, making sure your marketing is working. Like all those hats that you're wearing as a business owner, don't make that happen on the weekends.
No.
Set aside an admin day or an admin half day, work on those things. But to do that, you can't be the only one. If you're trying to run a business like that, you can't be the only one. You need to have other folks seeing the patients and making sure that their schedule is full and all that.
Most definitely. Listen, there is so much more we could talk about. I mean, we talked about some of the core things, but then I think about other things that I'd love to get into. So we're going to definitely do part 2 on this.
Sounds good.
I'm excited. Where should people find you? How do they follow you?
Okay, on Instagram, we're at Maven Financial.
Love it.
Our website, MavenFP, like financialpartners.com. And on that, there's a contact us form if you'd like that complimentary financial assessment. We'd love to review your financials with you. But otherwise, give us a follow. We're doing all kinds of videos and content where we talk about these things that we're seeing in practices.
I love it. And again, that complimentary assessment that you're offering. Love that you have those tools in place so that it feels welcoming to people.
Yes. And if people are scared to have the conversation, we do have our book on Amazon.
Right. That's right.
Profitability.
Love
so give that a look if you'd like more information about how to understand your financials, things that we're seeing in practices today.
Love it. You know what? It's been so much fun to do this podcast with you.
Thank you.
It should be fun. Kind of like financials,
right? Yes, of course.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I will look forward to part 2.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Aesthetically Speaking, the podcast where beauty meets business, presented by Nextech. Follow and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Links to the resources mentioned on this podcast are available in your show notes. For more information about Nextech, visit nextech.com, or to learn more about TouchMD, go to touchmd.com. Aesthetically Speaking is a production of The Axis, TheAxis.io.